Well, welcome everyone. We're here and it is the Growing a Healthy Child podcast. My name is Meryl Fury. I'm a registered nurse and president and CEO of Plant-Based Nutrition Movement, which is a 501c3, sort of kind of located in the Chicagoland area, but we mostly hang out on the internet and do little things in real life out in the public, mostly working with children. Today, we are speaking with one of our newest board members. This is Karina Kelly Jiménez. I'm going to let her introduce herself. I'll just tell you a little bit about what I know her, and she can, connect the dots for you. She has been in this country since 2021. Is that what you said?
2001.
2001. So close, yet so far. Okay, 2001.
Numbers in there, just flip them
Whoa.
over.
And she's originally from Panama, which is so totally cool. I love that. She spent some time in her professional life as an immigration paralegal. So she's got great depth of knowledge about what it's like to come here from another country, both personally and professionally. She is also a mom. She's got a blended family of stepkids and biological child. And so really looking forward to this conversation with Karina. Karina, what else would you like our audience to know about you before we get started?
Yeah, hi, Merle, and hi, everyone listening to us today. Hi, everyone under the sound of our voice. Thank you for having me today. So, what else would I like for everybody to know about me? Well, my story is there's a lot of different things happening all at once. It's very multi-layered, but as you mentioned, I moved here when I was it was 2001, so I was 13 years old from Panama. And in 2014, I was diagnosed with cancer. So I do have experience when it comes to health challenges and trying to figure out what's the best lifestyle for me? What kind of changes can I make to you can't control what happens, you can't control the future, but to just make sure that I'm living the best quality of life as possible. So that is my experience with health. And I am, as I stand here today, a 3-time cancer survivor. And so that's 5 surgeries later and radiation treatments as well, by the grace of God. And so that's something important about my journey, and the reason why I became so passionate about eating whole foods, eating plant-based, and eating the way that I eat and the way that I lead my life right now.
Wow, that's so amazing. And I want to get right into that part because one of the most important things and one of the most valuable things for people to hear and to know is that everybody has a journey. There's a reason we all start like this, right? So very few of us were actually born into a vegan or a whole food plant-based family. Usually it happens that some particular event occurred and it flipped a switch or it started us to turn in our eating habits. So tell us a little bit about what was that moment when you like the light bulb went on and you said, oh my goodness, food is important. What was the light bulb moment when you realized that food was really important, either for your health or for your family's health or for whatever was going on? What was that epiphany that you had?
Yeah, so after my first diagnosis in 2014, I started researching ultra processed foods and processed foods and what was in them. And I learned about carcinogens for the first time. I was in my mid 20s learning about this for the first time. And I was appalled to see what I had been consuming all of these years unbeknownst to me, but more appalled to see that the administration that is in charge of protecting the health of all Americans has been the culprit, the one approving these ingredients in our foods, right? And so what I learned is that just because it's on the shelves or it is sold at the supermarket, it does not mean that it is safe or healthy for us. Amongst the worst offenders are that I used to eat a lot: sausage, bacon, like your traditional breakfast food here in America.
Mhm.
So I remember after my surgery, maybe a day or two, when I was finally able to go um, downstairs to the cafeteria, I stepped into a hospital cafeteria for the first time in my life. And I'm looking around, and if you can imagine, the sound effects when it's like a horror movie and it's like,
Yes.
so in my head, that's all I could hear, because every time I turned around, sausage, bacon, red meat everywhere. And the hospital was serving sick people recovering from cancer like myself, carcinogens and a plethora of other ingredients that, alter immune health, your neurology, your hormones. And I was appalled. So after that experience, I went home and I started furthering my research about what alternatives are out there for me to eat. So I learned about plant-based protein. I learned about legumes and um, beans, tofu, tempeh. Is that how you say that?
Yeah, you choose
Tempeh,
tomato.
seitan, and all the other kinds of protein alternatives that are out there. And so, slowly but surely, I started my journey replacing these harmful ingredients, these harmful foods. I think actually the first thing that I started with was milk. Yes.
Mm.
Um, Another aha moment at the very same this around the same time, I was an independent consultant for a Swiss company that sold personal care products and health products like weight loss, and I shouldn't say just weight loss, but mostly health products, but a lot of personal care products. And I noticed how the European Union screens for over 2,400 chemicals and toxins from their personal care products.
Mm.
And I learned about, our skin. I knew this instinctively, but I'm working for this company, and we're talking about how our skin is the largest organ of our body, and anything that you put in it gets absorbed into your bloodstream, right? And so, in thinking about that, also thinking about other organs within my body, and what else am I putting into my body that I am ingesting, that I'm consuming,
Mm.
that is affecting my health, or could be affecting my health. And so, I started with milk, going from dairy to soy. No, I actually think I started with almond milk at the time. And from there, just progressed to a full on plant based whole foods diet.
Mm. Brilliant. Yeah. Those times I've been in the hospital too a couple times where like after my husband had his heart attack and the food that was available that was on the heart healthy menu. Oh my goodness. Oh my
Horrid.
goodness. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So it almost comes down to, and so many people do, when you learn about the impact food can have on how we respond and how we recover from illness, people bring their own food from home or they have somebody bring it to them, because it's such a big part of how we recover, and it's so poorly managed in the typical healthcare setting. Yeah,
Yes.
amazing, amazing. So you came here from Panama and you were a kiddo. What? Oh, I know, that's what it was. So when you were here, coming here from Panama, I imagine Panama eats like more traditional Central American type food. Were you eating more plant-based when you first got here and then it gradually changed, or not really?
No, not really. I grew up all the way through 13 years old eating a lot of pig, a lot of unfortunately deep fried food, a lot of starchy foods also. You have your white rice, which goes with everything that you cook. You can't not have the rice, got to have the white rice there. Plantains is a staple in Panama as well. They're delicious.
Yes, love them. Yeah.
I still eat them. We still cook them in moderation, not every day. But yeah, we just all kinds of meat, and I grew up in the Caribbean of Panama, beautiful Caribbean of Colon, and
Mm.
so I had access to all kinds of seafood. I mean, my whole childhood, I remember the God bless them, the crabs being boiled alive
Yeah.
in front
Yeah.
of us, for our enjoyment. And so, yeah, all kinds of seafood that you can think about. So that was the last thing for me to go when I transitioned with seafood. That was the hardest. Still
Ah,
to this day, I don't crave the pork. I don't crave the chicken. I don't crave, um, and this is, you know, we can get more into this later, but when it comes to the reality of when you grow up culturally or traditionally a certain way, and you have 20 plus years of this conditioning of this, um, you've trained your body to crave certain things, right?
mm,
It is very difficult, the I guess the older that you are in life, to make that switch in your mind and your brain, and to train your taste buds in a different
mhm,
way.
mhm.
um, but it's possible. It is absolutely possible. Take it from me, someone who grew up in the Caribbean, eating all of this. You know, if you know, pig feet, you know,
Oxtails,
crawfish,
right,
yes,
right.
oxtails, all the stuff,
Yes.
that at the time, your body craved it. They're tasty, but it's possible to retrain your brain. It's possible to retrain your taste buds.
Yeah, for sure. I have to agree. I grew up partly in the Caribbean also, and the oxtails and the bullfoot soup and the um, goat, curried goat, all of these things. And it's not only your taste buds, right? It's like we have this whole world and this whole emotional, psychological thing that goes along with when my mother cooked me oxtails that time, right? Red beans and oxtail soup, I remember was something that we used to get, or, like I said, curried goat, things like this. That is a memory that's all about family and love and somebody spending a long time over the stove, stirring a pot or sauteing things to, serve it to you on a plate. Um, those are the things that we kind of have to unhook from, and we
Yes.
have to come to the point where we understand the food isn't the main thing. It was that connection with that person. It was the love, or the yeah, just the care that your mom put in, or your grandma put in, or your uncle, or your whoever it was, right? Who roasted the whole pig over the spit all day, right? Whatever it was. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what's funny when you talk about care and the time invested in the kitchen, is that when you do go Whole Foods, you probably are spending as much time as not, if not more,
Yes, ma'am.
prepping and chopping. And you have, if you're doing it from scratch, you have all these different food categories that you've tapped into and you're using now. And my husband will, it's makes it a point, and to his credit, makes it a point to always, and he's not plant-based, but he makes it a point to always thank me for my effort and the time that I invest in the kitchen. He
Mm,
loves my food. And so it's one of those things where, like you said, the main thing is not the thing that we think, or that
right.
we traditionally grew up um, being conditioned to focus on.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
actually deeper than that,
Yeah. Yeah. This
or
is
more
so
simple.
so funny, how um, smells, odors, fragrances can be such strong mental stimulus, right?
Hmm.
And the smell, I'm sure if I walked into my big cousin's kitchen on St. Thomas and she was cooking curried goat right now, I don't know why I'm focused on that today, but if I walked in and I smelled that smell, I know all of those emotions would come, right? Because smell has that. It is that kind of a sense, for better and for worse. So yeah,
Sure.
it's something we have to uncouple from a little bit when we change up our diet. and hopefully we're changing the diet for the better always, but yeah, that's amazing. So you have a child at home. That was we had you may or may not get to see that little interruption we had earlier from Karina's 6-year-old. That's so cool. So how is it for you, having come from another country, landing here, going through all the upbringing and the great fun of growing up in the United States? Now you have a child of your own. Tell us a little bit about what it's like raising your own child, knowing what you know about food now.
I love it. It has its sets of challenges, because, as people will probably be able to tell by the title of this podcast, um, when and we haven't gone into even this side of my story, but I guess we're going into it now.
And
But we have our family dynamic is unique because we are a blended family. And so I am co-parenting with my ex-husband, my child's father, and who is not plant-based. Okay.
Mhm.
And so that is a dynamic that is uniquely challenging. Um, and I still love that I get to um, sort of train up my child in a new way that is a new way for me, but to hopefully uh, leave a legacy to him whereby it is normal to talk about, thinking healthfully about what you put in your mouth, what you consume. It is normal to talk about animals as being sentient, as being deserving of moral consideration, just as much as the ones that we domesticate, the pets, right? Just as much as even humans. Yes. So in my parenting, I really look at parenting as one of the greatest forms of advocacy and activism, if you will. And that is, excuse me, a part of my background is advocating for medically vulnerable and mentally vulnerable individuals in detention, in ICE detention. So my I guess my parenting kind of merges with what I've done also professionally and what I've done in the social sphere, as an advocate of civil rights and human rights. And um, yeah, there's a lot of a component of compassion there when I have conversations with my son about food, but it's also a lot about health and thinking critically, thinking in terms of, um, is it good for me to eat this entire bowl of cinnamon crunch cereal, um, or can I have just a little bit of it and have it in moderation? We talk about moderation and balance a lot here at home. And my husband is on the same train of health. He's on his own journey, and I respect the journey that he's on. But just to answer your question and go back to the main question, I love parenting my son now in this new um, era, if you will, of my life post cancer. And having been more educated and still educating myself on health and wellness, and how all of that goes back to the decision that we make at least 3 times a day of what we put on our plates.
Isn't that so important? That's great. I know when we were talking, getting ready for this conversation, you mentioned something about radical acceptance. Is
Yes,
that the word? Could you
that's
tell me a
right.
little bit about that? Tell our audience a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, okay. So, long story short, I have been blessed to be a part of recovery circles, and there's this prayer that it's prayed in all recovery, most recovery circles, which is the Serenity Prayer. Okay, and it's God grant me and I'm hoping not to butcher it right now, but God grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Mhm, mhm.
And I'm sure everybody listening, that sounds familiar, like something you've heard before. Maybe you've seen it on a meme or, somewhere on the internet.
Right.
It's been everywhere for a very long time.
Right.
And um, the acceptance piece is so important. So grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, because we get stuck as humans in loops of frustration, and that breeds resentment over time, and that doesn't create an environment for yourself in your relationships within your family where collaboration can thrive, where you have this a spirit of unity, right? It's more of a divider. It doesn't promote connection when you have contempt towards someone, when you are resentful towards someone because they don't meet your standard,
Right.
because they're not where you are, right? And so in my own life, the hard way, I have had to learn how to just accept that my other co-parent, it's just not where I'm at. He doesn't have, we don't share the same convictions, regarding food, regarding health, regarding animals. And I've had to tell myself, and that is okay. And so
Mhm.
that radical acceptance, just settling into that and not forcing something onto the other person. You will feed our child what I feed him when he's
Mhm.
at home with me.
Mhm.
That sort of mentality is extremely unhelpful. But the radical acceptance is what has brought a lot of just not only peace, but like I said earlier, that spirit of collaboration between the two of us and unity. And that's what our son needs to see. That's the legacy that we're leaving behind, that even though, you know, we're not together anymore, my hope is that one day my son will be able to tell other people that I never saw my parents argue over this. My
Mhm.
parents always did the best that they could to work together. I always saw and felt a spirit of unity amongst them.
Yeah, that's great. That leads right into the next question. Beautiful segue. So, raising a child, co-parenting, and having, let's say that he's living like a dual life, food wise, at anyway, right? Just food wise. Um, how do you feel your input, and what do you do actually, like consciously or intentionally, to shape his worldview about maybe food, or what do you do to shape his worldview around animals and how we treat animals?
Great question, Merle. So, one thing that I have learned over the years is to, first of all, I don't ever want him to think of other people that make a different choice and have the, you know, mm, standard American diet lifestyle, for example, as others. So this idea of othering people, um, I I'm careful to, when we have conversations. For example, I've have taught him that we make a choice and other people make their own choice. And he's only 6, okay? And so I am doing all of this. It's like you learn on the job, okay? I'm still having those conversations with him. And so my hope is that when he's of an age, and you have older kids, maybe you can tell me when the age is where he can choose.
Different for every one of them.
Okay, well, where he can choose, I'll play by ear.
Right.
That he will choose health and compassion. So
Mhm.
that is my hope. Um, but that's one thing that I've done consciously, is to have a conscious, to be cautious of my language and to watch my language, how I describe other people that make a different choice.
Mm.
And that includes his father, right? And so I'm careful to always, also, I remind my son, I'm never mad at you for what you eat when you're not here.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right.
Mommy's never upset with you. Um, you are a child and you have to eat. So maybe this will help others kind of juggling this and dealing with
Mm,
a family dynamic like ours. One thing that has helped us is to, just explicitly and have an honest conversation with my child and just say, you are a child and you don't have to feel pressure to, um, you know, uh, please me or please your dad.
mm,
And you are given what you are given to eat. You don't have a choice over that. That's the adult's choice.
mm,
And I look at it as the adult's choice as a
mm,
parent
mhm,
on the other side.
mhm.
As my child is not technically able to make his own right now at 6 years old. Yeah, so that's the number one thing that I've have found helpful is to have
Mhm.
those conversations with him,
Yeah.
and like I said, to always make sure he's thinking of others in terms of choice. They
Mhm.
have a choice, and that goes into the acceptance piece also.
Mm.
Um, Everyone is responsible for themselves. I'm not responsible for the other parent or whomever,
Right.
and so uh, personal accountability and agency.
Mhm.
You
Mm.
know, that's a theme and a conversation that we have often. And the other thing that I've done to shape his worldview, which is a part of your question, correct? The
Mhm.
second part of your question.
Yeah.
A couple things. I think it really helps if you, couple of practical things here. Taking him on a grocery run with me
Mhm.
so that he can pick the food that we're going to eat that week. He has his pick of whatever he feels. It's the mango that feels the most ripe right now, or the avocado, and it's fun for him, right? Um, a great story that I have is that this was such a happy accident that we found one of his favorite ultimate snacks now that he has. And it's so healthy. We were at the grocery store and he was hungry. And you know, they say never go hungry to the grocery store, right?
Right. 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 Right.
He didn't listen that day. However, this actually turned out on our favor because we were both hungry and we saw a little pack of like baby sweet peppers. Have you had those before?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty good as a snack. Even without hummus or anything else, just raw.
Uh-huh.
They are pretty sweet. They are pretty good. I had never had them raw before, and my son picked it out, and he's just started munching on that. And at the grocery store, we paid for it, of course, after words. And so come to find out that he loved it. That was one of his ultimate is one still one of his ultimate favorite snacks, and I send it to school with him. I pack his lunch sometimes with a little side of sweet peppers, baby peppers, and so those are the kind of things that they're happy accidents that happen. But if your son, if your daughter, if your children aren't there with you, and I know it takes longer to bring your kids to the grocery store, and we don't do it all the time, but as often as you can, I would say bring them with you
Mhm.
because they are having one-on-one contact, personal interaction with the source. So it's so important to know the source, right? And
Mhm.
even folks that, carnivore diets and eat meat, they're always talking about grass-fed this, grass-fed that. Like know your local
Yeah.
butcher.
Your local farmer or cattle rancher or whoever. Yeah.
Correct. Yes, yes. And this is true just in general in life. Know your source. Understand, this goes into critical thinking too. I grew
Mhm.
up, like I said, in the Caribbean by the ocean. So we had a lot of seafood. So I knew that those animals came from the sea. But in terms of other things that we ate, I was a child and I wasn't in the kitchen all the time. And everything just magically appeared on my plate. And I was grateful that it was there. But when it comes to children, I think it's so important they understand where it actually comes from. And if
Yes.
they can grow it themselves, if you can grow it at home yourself, even better. But if not, a run to the grocery store with your children goes a long way. And then when you get home, if they can help you cook it as well, which we do here at home as well, It's so fun. He is 6 and he has his own recipe for pancakes from scratch. It's a 3 ingredient recipe.
Nice.
And he knows how to do it on his own. And so, and he loves it. And it's just something that, all kids of all ages, I think they get excited to be in the kitchen and experiment with ingredients. So,
Nice.
that's one thing. And then the other thing is when you talk about sores, also exposing them to the animals. We have a friend who has a sanctuary, and it's not too far from us. And we've gotten to have personal one on one time with some piggies and some cows and horses. She doesn't have any chickens, but it's been a really wholesome experience to see my son sort of relating to this creature that
Mm,
is sentient just like us. And we talk about it all the time, but I don't want it to just be theoretical, like a theory, like a concept.
right.
So the point of actually taking your kids to the source is to make it real for them so they can make that, not only they don't have a intellectual connection or intellectual just up here it's knowledge, but also it's a heart connection,
Right.
and that's important as well. So
Right.
those are some things that I think that for us it has worked, and I think that other people, if you want to try it, I think that it would be great for your kids as well.
Yeah. I'm going to bring in again the importance and the strength of all the senses, right? So if you're going to a little uh, like a shelter or a, what do you call that? Yeah, a shelter, right? An animal shelter. I'm not coming up with the right word.
Where they get the dogs and
Yeah,
cats.
or farm animals, right?
Hmm.
That are being, oh my gosh, why do I not
A
feel like shelter?
sanctuary.
Sanctuary, that's the
Yes.
word.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yes. Um, you know, to be able to touch the animal and feel the warmth of the animal maybe, or smell again, so important. Actually see, oh, this is what a chicken looks like. It's not in a styrofoam wrapped, plastic wrapped package. Well, yeah, that's chicken too, but that's not.
Yes.
I mean, a chicken is this live two-legged bird that has feathers and makes noise and walks around, and they actually have personalities.
And
I think,
friends.
yeah, yes, families, right? I think that is so important when we're encouraging ourselves of any age to realize that animals are sentient, as you're saying, and have life just like we have life, and want to live just like we want to live, and they want to be free of pain and suffering, just like we want to be free of pain and suffering. Right? That's so wonderful, so wonderful. I'm so glad you're doing that with him. He's going to grow up with all of that, right? That's a very rich childhood. Beautiful,
I think
beautiful.
so. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm excited about it.
I think once kids, in fact, so when I have the chance to go into schools to work with kids, that is the biggest driver. The kids do not care. If I'm a nurse, I can go in looking full nurse mode, right? Which is a frightening thought. But I go in and I say, you should eat your fruits and vegetables because it's better for you and you won't have a heart attack or whatever I say, which I probably would never say. But you'll reduce your risk of having a heart attack or high blood pressure or heart disease. Or, if your grandpa has have a heart attack, well, he could eat more vegetables. It goes absolutely nowhere. It's like
They
the
would never invite you back,
conversation.
girl. They would never invite you back.
That's right. Bye. Don't let the doorknob hit you. You know. But
Yes.
if we can talk to them about animals and how important it is and how we take care of animals, and if you saw a bunny in your yard, would you want to go hurt it? No, mostly not. Mostly we just want to watch the bunny maybe, or if the bunny came up to us, we would pet the bunny maybe, but we mostly don't want to hurt the bunny. We can also get to um, that space of caring in a child if we talk about the planet, taking care of the planet, taking care of the ecosystem, or the, the land, the earth, the trees, because it's all very much, it's all like this when you start talking about animals and planet for children. So yeah, I really applaud the work you're doing, um, even in the face of, especially, let me say, in the face of co-parenting and having to juggle that and balance that out, without animosity is beautiful, beautiful. So, question I have, because I know that you're a active and engaged mom. You told me before about your little one being in sports, I think, or yeah.
Yes.
How has that worked because I know I was a soccer mom, and the snacks that people, you rotate, every team mom brings the snack at least once during the season or so. Um, how have you managed dealing with the snack brigade for extracurricular sports and stuff like that?
Oh my gosh, brigade is the right word here, actually. So he's in soccer currently and has been for a few seasons now. He's 6 and he's been in soccer since he was 3, I think. And he's done baseball. He's doing baseball again this summer and in the fall. And how have I managed that? Well, we always come prepared. That's just the story of our lives, right?
Mhm.
Preparation, which is, again, I keep talking about legacy because this isn't just about stop eating this, start eating that.
Mm.
It is about mindset, right? It is about teaching kids, passing down the value of discipline and preparation. And so for us, we prepare. I always have a healthy snack handy with me. Have you heard of Thrive Market?
I have heard of it. I've never used it myself, but I've heard of it.
Okay, yeah, it's an online service. You can have it delivered to your door, but they do have, for folks who are like, I don't have time to cut uh, oranges or mangoes or apples or whatever.
Mm.
Um, it's fine, and a lot of us are busy. But a great alternative too is Thrive Market. They do have, you can filter it to where it screens out all of these harmful food colorings and hydrogenated oils and things like that. So that's an option. We use them sometimes as a subscription based service, and most of the time, what we're getting from the grocery store when I do my grocery run, we have, I have it handy. And so I have it on my calendar. I know Tuesdays or Thursdays is practice. So I have it ready with me in case the parents who are in charge of snacks that day are handing out Doritos and the such. And right. So
Mhm.
now when it's my turn, I am sort of known as the extra parent, the parent who's a little bit extra, and I don't care. I am all right. I am quite okay with that title. I do it for my son, and I do it for all of the wonderful kids who are working hard with their little bodies. Just it's a workout. It's a
It
full workout what
is.
they do. And so uh, again, conversations that are candid, open and honest and logical with my son, right? Before and after, maybe not after the game, but before, days before, we talk about our bodies and what, whatever. It's ongoing all the time, this conversation of nutrients and vitamins. And so for us, I usually bring in a little. I it is a little bit extra, but I get these plastic see-through containers from Walmart,
Mm.
and so in them I put baby carrots. I put uh, strawberries,
Mm.
uh, dairy-free yogurt, and string cheese,
Mhm.
and like some pretzels, right?
Mhm.
And so I hand that to the kids when it's my turn, and the parents honestly love it.
Mhm.
Some of the kids, depending on the teams or whatever, are confused because they came ready for that Capri Sun.
That's
And
right. Oh my gosh, yes, yes. Capri Sun and Cheetos, come on.
yes, which our alternative to that is the Honest
Uh,
juice
juice
box.
box, yeah.
It's one of the healthiest options that I have been able to find, and so they're still getting juice, but
Mm,
it's so much healthier for them. And yeah, I think we talked about this. I have this idea for handing out healthier snack alternatives to kids in sports after the games. And so um, I haven't even thought out like how I'm going to do that. But as a parent, I started in my own life and with my own kid in our own division and little circle. So that's one thing that I try to do to send a message out to promote, like, hey, there is another way, right? Their bodies are sweating out all of these
yeah.
nutrients and they need to replenish. They need the electrolytes, they need the antioxidants. And so, yeah, it's just, I get a kick out of it if you can't tell.
Yeah, that is great. Is there anything else that you would like to say that you feel like is, if there was one like pearl of wisdom that you could give the audience about feeding your child or being in this space, or your convictions in life or anything like that, what would you like to say?
I'm going to go back to radical acceptance, especially if you are in a blended family situation or a situation where it's unique to you and you just don't have access to your kid for long periods of time or kids, and somebody else is doing the caregiving. Um, so I would just say, for your own peace and joy, accept where others are not. And you just focus on, you always have to be like monomaniacal about, like, this is the vision for my family and for my life. This is us. And you are unapologetic about it, as we are. And unapologetic doesn't mean you are divisive. It just means that you are very grounded in your conviction. So I just want to encourage anybody out there who is just having the hardest time and struggling with this to stay grounded in your conviction. It gets easier depending on where you are on the journey. It gets easier because you start to figure out what works and what doesn't work when it comes to that co-parenting relationship, or that dynamic that you're in, um, when your kids are not with you.
Mhm.
When they are with you, though, just hone in and focus on the joy that it is to be able to shape their mindset, their mentality around their bodies, their health, and the world at large. Like you said, Merle, how everything is connected, how God created everything. All of the, earthlings on the earth are His
Mhm.
creation, and all are deserving of moral consideration.
Mhm.
So to plant that seed in your child's mind and to help, to me, that's helping them think critically, because they won't go through life subconsciously like many of us grew up,
Mhm.
always just doing the thing because that's always how we've done it,
Yes.
always just eating the way that we eat because tradition, because culture. But why?
Mhm.
Right? That question is so powerful. Why? And so teaching your kids, which is one of my favorite parts about this lifestyle and this stance that I have in life, this ethical stance, is teaching my kids, my child, that it is important to question and to ask why, and to figure out for yourself,
Mm.
and to ask your question, is there a better way? And
Yeah.
oftentimes you will find that there is a better way or another way of doing things that is more beneficial to you. And so, yeah, I would just say it's so much more than just values, passing down values. It's more of passing down things that are invaluable to your kids,
Mhm.
such as the critical thinking, the discipline, the planning, the not conforming to things because it's culture or tradition.
Right.
How many things that we do in the past, Merle, that were culturally acceptable and
Yes.
traditional that were legal also, and come to find out we shouldn't have been doing that
Yeah, those were really bad ideas.
to other human beings. Yes,
Right.
to other sentient beings. And so I think that that's just an invaluable lesson to teach your children to think that way. And it's going to go such a long way. They're going to thank you for it someday. So if you're struggling, hang on, just keep going. Your kids are going to thank you for it someday.
Yeah, that is really well said. I agree 100%. Thank you so much for your time and your commitment and your energy. And thank you for being on our board of directors. I have just had every time we talk, I so enjoy our conversation. It's been wonderful.
Same,
Yeah.
same. Thank you for having me on this platform and sharing my story and hopefully some nuggets that people can take home with them.
Yes, absolutely. With that, we will wrap up this episode of Growing a Healthy Child. We've been speaking with Karina Kelly Jiménez. Such a pleasure. I'm Meryl Fury. We will put whatever we need to put in the show notes. Karina, do you have a way that people could contact you if anybody wanted to ask you more questions or get more insight from you? You can either say your email address or we can also put it in the show notes so that people can get it there.
Yeah, sure. I would say just simplest way, easiest way, contact me via email.
We'll put in the show notes your PBNM email.
Okay,
Um,
there we go.
and that will just be there and people can get to you that way.
Super.
And yeah, that'll make it probably the easiest. And then you don't have to decide which other email to use and it'll be there. Okay, beautiful. On that note, we will wrap up this session. Thank you so much again. And I'm sure we will be seeing you soon.
Absolutely. Bye, Merle. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thanks.